What if the part of you that you fear the most, the part you hide in the deepest vaults of your soul, is not your weakness, but the source of your divine, untamed power? You have felt it, haven't you, this otherness inside? A repository of thoughts and impulses that do not fit the radiant image of the person you are trying to be. There is a quiet shame attached to it, a secret you guard with the diligence of a dragon protecting its hoard. You walk through your life performing the role of the healer, the leader, the innovator, all while a sliver of your mind stands in terror that one day the mask will slip. You fear that the world will see the anger you suppress, the envy you transmute, the unconventional desires you bury, and they will declare you a fraud, unworthy of the mission you feel thrumming in your bones. This is the great schism of the chosen one. And from this schism, a profound fear is born. It is the shadow of doubt. This fear whispers a venomous lie, that this hidden part of you, this shadow, is a contamination. It tells you that you are flawed, that your darkness disqualifies you from your purpose. It convinces you that to be a vessel for the light, you must be scrubbed clean of every dark speck, and because you can never achieve this impossible purity, you live in a state of perpetual fear of being exposed. You fear you are not good enough, not pure enough, to carry out your sacred task. Today we shatter that illusion. We decode that fear, and we do it through a story. In the heart of a valley perpetually bathed in soft, golden light stood the city of Ethelgard. Its towers were carved from pristine white marble that seemed to drink the sunlight and radiate it back, humming a silent song of purity. Here there were no shadows, for the architecture and the city's own innate magic were designed to banish them. The people of Ethelgard valued order, clarity, and unwavering goodness above all else. They were a civilization built on the absolute rejection of darkness in all its forms, believing that perfection was attainable only through the complete eradication of its opposite, a flawless and sterile existence. Born into this city of relentless light was a child named Kaelin. His birth was heralded as a miracle, for he arrived on the day of the sun's zenith, marked with a swirling golden crest upon his brow. The elders declared him the son chosen, a champion destined to be the ultimate guardian of Ethelgard's purity. From his first steps he was trained in the arts of lumina, the ability to shape light into shields, swords, and searing bolts of energy. He was taught that control was paramount, that any flicker of anger, any pang of envy, any whisper of fear was a stain upon his soul that must be immediately cleansed. Kaelin excelled in every way. He was kind, compassionate, and his skill with lumina was unparalleled. The citizens adored him. He was the living embodiment of their highest ideal. Yet in the silent hours of the night, when the city's glow was a soft pearl rather than a brilliant diamond, Kaelin felt a profound emptiness. He felt like a beautiful, hollow vessel. He would meditate as he was taught, flooding his mind with light to purge the unsettling feelings, but the hollowness remained, a quiet, gnawing ache in the core of his being, a question mark in a city that only accepted exclamation points. The first signs of trouble began subtly. At the edge of the sunlit valley, where the light of Ethelgard began to wane, patches of land started to decay. The vibrant green grasses turned a sickly gray, and the trees withered as if drained of life. The elders dismissed it as a natural blight, but soon, whispers turned to terrified shouts. A creature had been sighted, a being of pure, writhing darkness, a formless entity that seemed to absorb the very light around it. They called it the Umbra, and wherever it passed, it left a trail of silent, lifeless desolation, a creeping void that threatened their perfect world. The Umbra was unlike anything the warriors of Ethelgard had ever faced. Their blades of pure light, which could slice through the densest stone, passed through the creature as if it were smoke. Their radiant shields, capable of deflecting any physical blow, offered no protection against the life-draining aura the beast exuded. Panic began to fester in the city of perfection. For the first time, the people of Ethelgard felt the cold touch of a fear they had no name for, a fear born from an enemy that their entire philosophy and arsenal were utterly powerless against, challenging the very foundation of their beliefs. Kaelin, as the Sun Chosen, was tasked with confronting the beast. He was Ethelgard's hope, the ultimate expression of their light. He rode out, his armor gleaming, his heart a storm of duty and a cold, secret dread. He found the Umbra in a corrupted grove, a vortex of non-light that pulsed with a silent, agonizing sorrow. He unleashed the full force of his power, a torrent of concentrated sunlight that could level a mountain. The Umbra simply absorbed it, swelling in size, its presence growing more oppressive, more sorrowful, more vast, as if feeding on the very energy meant to destroy it. He returned in failure, the first failure of his perfect life. The shame was a physical weight, heavier than any armor. The elders convened, their faces etched with a new, unwelcome gravity. They spoke of an ancient legend, a failsafe from a forgotten age. The legend told of the obsidian mirror, a relic hidden deep within the Shadowfen, the one place in the world where Ethelgard's light could not reach. It was said this mirror had the power to contain and ultimately obliterate any darkness, a final solution to an unthinkable problem. This was now Kaelin's quest, his last hope. The journey to the Shadowfen was a torment. The farther he traveled from Ethelgard, the more the world changed. The golden light faded, replaced by a perpetual twilight. Here, for the first time in his life, Kaelin saw his own shadow stretch out before him, a long, dark companion that mimicked his every move. He felt an irrational revulsion towards it, a deep-seated instinct to blast it away with light. The teachings of his youth screamed in his mind, darkness is the enemy, the flaw, the stain. It must be purged, it must be destroyed, it is not you. As he traveled, he felt things he had never allowed himself to feel before. The sight of a struggling, desperate village, left to fend for itself outside the protection of Ethelgard's light, stirred a hot, unfamiliar anger within him. When a cunning merchant tried to swindle him, he felt a sharp pang of cynical mistrust. These feelings were alien and terrifying. He tried to suppress them, to meditate them away, but out here, away from the city's humming purity, the feelings clung to him, as persistent and undeniable as his own shadow, refusing to be banished by practiced thought. The Shadowfen was a place of stark, haunting beauty. Giant moss-covered trees blotted out the sky, and the air was thick with the scent of damp earth and decay, which was also the scent of life. Bioluminescent fungi cast a soft, ethereal glow on the path. It was not the horrifying pit of darkness he had been taught to expect, but a place of quiet mystery, a world that operated on principles entirely different from Ethelgard's rigid dualism. It was a place of gradients, of nuance, where light and dark danced in a constant, inseparable embrace, creating a complex and beautiful tapestry. Deep within the fen, in a cave system illuminated by glowing crystals, he found her. An ancient hermit named Lyra, the supposed guardian of the obsidian mirror. She was not what he expected. Her eyes were not filled with the grim resolve of a warrior against darkness, but with a clear, piercing wisdom and a profound, almost heartbreaking compassion. She looked at Kaelin, and for the first time he felt truly seen, not as the Sun Chosen, not as a symbol, but as the struggling, hollow soul he was, his polished exterior and his hidden turmoil laid bare. "You seek the obsidian mirror to destroy the Umbra," she said, her voice a soft rustle like leaves in the wind. "The elders of Ethelgard still tell the old, frightened stories. They teach children to fear the night, to amputate parts of their own soul and call it purity. They sent you on a fool's errand, Sun Chosen." Her words were a direct challenge to his entire reality, and Kaelin's hand instinctively went to the hilt of his light-forged sword, a defensive gesture against the heresy she spoke, a truth his spirit was not yet ready to accept. "The Umbra cannot be destroyed by any weapon," Lyra continued, her gaze unwavering. "To strike at it is to strike at yourself. To feed it your light is to feed it your strength. You have felt this, have you not? It is a creature born of exile, of rejection. It is a pain that has been given form, a sorrow that has been left to fester in the dark. It is a hunger for what was taken from it, a desperate yearning to be whole again." She spoke of the beast not as a monster, but as a wounded thing, deserving of pity rather than wrath. She led him deeper into the cave, to a chamber where a large, circular disc of polished black stone rested on a pedestal. It was the obsidian mirror. It did not radiate power or menace. It simply was, absorbing all light, reflecting nothing. The elders believe this mirror imprisons darkness, Lyra explained. They are wrong. It does not imprison. It reveals. It shows you the truth you have been trained your entire life to deny. It shows you the part of yourself you have been taught to hate. Look, son chosen. Look and see the origin of your monster. Hesitantly, Kalen stepped before the mirror. He expected to see some monstrous vision, some dark entity lurking behind his own reflection. But all he saw was himself, his golden hair, his bright eyes, his perfect armor. Then as he stared, the image wavered. His reflection flickered, and for a heart-stopping moment, he saw another infant lying beside him in a crib, a twin made not of flesh, but of shad. He saw the elders of Ethelgard performing a ritual, chanting words of separation, of purification, of exile. They were casting a part of him away. The vision overwhelmed him. He saw them drawing the shadow from his infant form, a painful, tearing extraction of essence. They cast this nascent, frightened shadow into a formless void, declaring the remaining child, Kalen, pure and whole. He watched this exiled piece of himself drift in emptiness, growing not from malice, but from the agonizing pain of abandonment. He saw its confusion turn to sorrow, its sorrow to a desperate hunger for reunion, a hunger that now threatened the very city that had cast it out. The Umbra was not his enemy. It was his twin. It was his own shadow self. The revelation shattered him. His perfect world, his sacred duty, his entire identity, it was all built upon a lie, a mutilation disguised as purification. The emptiness he had felt his entire life was not a flaw to be cleansed, but a wound. A missing piece of his own soul had been calling out to him. The revulsion he felt for his own shadow on the journey here, the anger and mistrust that had surfaced, these were not alien corruptions. They were the first stirrings of his lost half, the first whispers of his own denied nature, begging to be heard. He stumbled back from the mirror, gasping for air, the foundations of his reality crumbling into dust. "What have they done?" he whispered, his voice cracking with a despair so profound it felt like a physical chasm opening within him. They cut me in half. They made me a monster by trying to make me a god. The truth was a poison and an antidote all at once, killing the perfect soldier he was raised to be, and offering the chance for a whole man to be born in his place if he could survive the agony of this rebirth. Lyra placed a steadying hand on his shoulder. "They did what they thought was right based in their fear," she said softly. "Fear is a poor architect, son chosen. It builds walls where there should be bridges. It forges swords where there should be open hands. They feared the darkness within you because they fear it within themselves. Your mission was never to destroy the Umbra. It was to reclaim it. Your true trial is not one of power, but of courage. The courage to face the part of you that you were told was worthless and finally call it home." For days, Kalen remained in the cave, grappling with the truth. Every fiber of his being, every lesson ingrained since birth, screamed at him to reject it. The Umbra was a blight, a source of destruction. To embrace it felt like suicide, a surrender to the very chaos he was born to conquer. He paced before the mirror, arguing with his own reflection, with Lyra, with the universe. He was the son chosen. His purpose was to be a beacon of pure light. How could he embrace the very thing that sought to extinguish it? This was the war for his soul. During one of his tormented meditations, he stopped fighting. He stopped trying to flood his mind with light. For the first time, he simply sat in the quiet, cavernous darkness of his own confusion and grief. And he listened. He let the feelings he had suppressed for so long finally surface. the loneliness of being a symbol, the rage at the elders for what they did to him, the deep, aching sorrow for his lost, wounded other half. He let himself feel the ugliness, the messiness, the imperfection. He let himself be human. In that moment of surrender, a new understanding dawned. The Umbra was not evil. It was powerful, yes, but its actions were not driven by malice. They were the desperate, destructive thrashings of an abandoned child screaming for its parent. It drained the life from the land because it was starving for the life that was its birthright. It absorbed his light not to destroy it, but out of an instinctual, desperate need to reunite with its source. Its entire existence was a cry for help, a cry that all of Ethelgard had misinterpreted as a declaration of war. The path forward became terrifyingly clear. He could not return to Ethelgard with the mirror and a lie. He could not wield a weapon against his own soul. He had to go to the Umbra, not to fight it, not to contain it. He had to go to it with open hands, with an open heart. He had to face the embodiment of his deepest, most rejected self, and he had to offer it the one thing it had never known: acceptance. It was the greatest risk of his life, a choice that could lead to his own annihilation or a salvation he could barely imagine. He left the Shadowfen, leaving the obsidian mirror behind. He carried no sword of light, no shield of brilliance. His only weapon was the raw, terrifying, and liberating truth. His only shield was his newfound willingness to be whole. As he traveled back across the blighted lands, his own shadow, once a source of revulsion, now seemed like a faithful guide, a promise of the reunion to come. He no longer flinched from it. He walked with it, a silent acknowledgement of their shared journey toward wholeness, two halves of a single soul converging. He found the Umbra at the very gates of Ethelgard. It had grown immense, a roiling mountain of pure void, pulsing with sorrowful energy. The city's defenders were in disarray, their light attacks only making it stronger. The people he had sworn to protect were cowering in the face of a monster he now knew they had created. He saw the fear on their faces, the same fear that had motivated the elders to perform that fateful ritual at his birth. He saw the terrible, repeating cycle of fear, creating the very thing it fears. Kalen walked forward alone, unarmed. The guards shouted warnings, his friends cried out for him to turn back, to use his power. He ignored them. He walked onto the blighted ground, directly into the chilling aura of the Umbra. The coldness seeped into his bones, a profound emptiness that threatened to extinguish his life force. It was the feeling of absolute separation, the pain his shadow had known for its entire existence. He did not fight it. He allowed himself to feel it completely, a shared agony that was the first step toward building a bridge. The Umbra sensed his approach. A great silent roar of pain and rage erupted from its core. It lunged at him not with claws or teeth, but with waves of pure despair and fear. It was a psychic assault, flooding Kalen's mind with every insecurity he had ever suppressed, every doubt he had ever harbored. It showed him visions of his own failure, of the city's destruction, of his utter worthlessness. It was using his own hidden darkness against him, the very material of his repressed self, as a weapon. In the past, he would have met this with a blinding flash of light, a desperate attempt to purge the darkness. But now he did something else. He stood his ground and he accepted it all. He let the waves of fear and despair wash over him. "I see you," he said, his voice quiet but clear, speaking not just with his mouth, but with his soul. "I see your pain. I see my own fear in you. I see my own anger in you. I see my own sorrow in you. You are not my enemy. You are the part of me I was not brave enough to love." He took another step forward, his heart wide open. "They were wrong to cast you out," Kalen continued, tears streaming down his face, freezing in the chilling. "I was wrong to fear you. I was wrong to hate you. You were just a child lost in the dark, and I left you there alone. My brother, my shadow, myself, forgive me. I am here now. I will not abandon you again. Come home. He held out his hands, an unconditional invitation, an act of absolute surrender to wholeness, an offering of pure love. The Umbra's furious assault faltered. The waves of despair receded, replaced by a tremor of utter confusion, and then a dawning of recognition. The monstrous form began to shrink, to coalesce. The formless, raging void slowly took on a humanoid shape, a being made of shifting twilight, its features indistinct save for two eyes that glowed with a profound, ancient sadness. It stood before Kalen, no longer a monster, but a mirror image cast in shadow, a lost twin finally seen for what it was, a reflection of his own soul. Hesitantly, the shadow being reached out a translucent, dark hand. Kalen met it with his own. As their fingers touched, there was no explosion, no cataclysmic battle of light and dark. There was only a quiet, final click, like a key turning in a lock that had been rusted shut for a lifetime. A wave of energy, neither light nor dark, but something entirely new, radiated outwards. It was the energy of balance, of integration, of wholeness. It was the power of a soul that had finally dared to embrace all of its parts, the beautiful and the terrifying. The Umbra did not vanish. It flowed into him. It was a torrent of every feeling he had ever denied himself. The righteous fury, the deep sorrow, the protective jealousy, the raw ambition. It was painful, overwhelming, and utterly liberating. He felt the hollow space inside him finally filled. His golden aura of light did not extinguish. Instead, it became interwoven with threads of silver and black shadow, creating a dynamic, shimmering power that was infinitely more potent and more real than the sterile purity he had known before. He was no longer just the son chosen. He was whole. When the transformation was complete, Kalen stood, changed. The golden crest on his brow now had a shadow-black twin swirling in perfect harmony with it. His eyes, once a uniform gold, now held the depth of a twilight sky, flecked with constellations. The power radiating from him was immense, but it was calm, centered, and complete. He had not destroyed his darkness. He had integrated it. He had not conquered his shadow. He had owned it. He had alchemized his greatest fear into his greatest power, and in doing so, had become more himself than ever before. The blighted land around them began to heal. The gray, dead grass slowly regained its color, and the withered trees began to bud with new life. The energy of wholeness flowing from Kalen was a healing balm, restoring the balance that had been broken by the act of separation so long ago. The people of Ethelgard watched in stunned silence, their concepts of light and dark, good and evil, shattering before their eyes. Their perfect champion had not slain the monster. He had embraced it. He had become it. And in doing so, he had saved them all. Kalen turned to face his city. He was no longer just their symbol of purity, their flawless champion. He was something far more important, a living testament to a deeper truth. He was a guide who could now lead them out of the prison of their own fear, a fear that had them amputating their own souls. His journey into the darkness had not been a fall from grace. It had been the only path to true enlightenment, a painful but necessary pilgrimage to reclaim the lost, sacred parts of himself, and in turn, show them how to do the same. He walked back into the city of no shadows, and for the first time his own shadow trailed faithfully behind him, no longer a mark of shame, but a symbol of his completeness, a testament to his courage. He knew his work was just beginning. He had to teach a whole civilization that true strength is not found in the denial of darkness, but in the courage to integrate it. That wholeness is holier than purity, and that the most terrifying monster we can ever face is simply a wounded, unloved part of ourselves waiting to be called home. He understood now that the Umbra's destructive rampage was a direct result of his own pursuit of perfection. The more light he projected, the darker and more starved his shadow became. His relentless goodness had created a corresponding, and equally relentless, hunger in the part of him he had exiled. The city's crisis was a reflection of his own inner war. To save Ethelgard, he first had to save himself from his own impossible ideals, from the tyranny of a light that refuses to acknowledge its other half, an unbalanced and fragile state of being. The elders met him at the gates, their faces a mixture of awe and terror. They saw the new power in him, but they could not comprehend its nature. It was a power that broke all their rules. "What have you done?" the High Elder asked, his voice trembling. Kalen looked at the old man not with anger, but with a deep, sorrowful compassion. "I have corrected a mistake made at my birth," he replied, his voice resonating with the harmony of light and shad. "I have made our city whole by first making myself whole. There is no enemy. There never was." The journey back to Ethelgard had been a moving meditation. Kalen felt the consciousness of his integrated shadow as a constant presence within him. It was not a separate entity, but a new depth to his own perspective. It gave him an understanding of endings, of silence, of the fertile void from which all creation springs. Where his light self saw only potential for growth, his shadow self understood the necessity of decay and rest. Together they formed a complete cycle of existence, a wisdom that was both brilliant and profound, expansive and deep, a true reflection of the universe itself. He began to teach. He did not use lectures or sermons, but demonstrated the new way of being. He walked into the city's infirmaries, where people suffered from ailments of the spirit, melancholy, anxiety, creative blocks. He did not blast these darknesses with light as he once would have. Instead, he taught the afflicted how to sit with their discomfort, to listen to what their sadness or fear was trying to tell them, to find the hidden gift within the wound. He taught them the art of inner alchemy, the first step in their own integration. At first, there was resistance. The people were afraid. They had been taught for centuries to fear what he was now asking them to embrace. But they could not deny the results. Under his guidance, the creatively blocked began to paint masterpieces filled with both vibrant color and deep shade. The anxious learned to find a centered calm not by ignoring their fear, but by understanding its source. The melancholy found a new depth and meaning in their lives, realizing their sorrow was a testament to their capacity for great love and connection. Kalen took the citizens to the edge of the sunlit valley at dusk, a time of day they had traditionally avoided, retreating into their artificially lit city. He had them watch the sunset, the glorious blending of light and dark. "Look," he would say, his voice a quiet hum of power. "The universe does not see light and shadow as enemies. They are partners in a sacred dance that creates the beauty of twilight, the mystery of dawn. Why do you insist on a reality that is only noon? You are robbing yourselves of the full spectrum of your own magnificent existence." He explained that their obsession with purity had made them brittle. A tree that is always in the sun, with no night to rest, will eventually wither and die. A soul that accepts only joy and rejects all sorrow becomes shallow and incapable of true empathy. Ethelgard, in its quest for perfection, had become a beautiful but sterile place, incapable of growth, incapable of true wisdom, because wisdom is forged in the crucible of adversity, in the acceptance of life's painful, shadowy, and difficult truths. They were living only half a life. The obsidian mirror became a central tool in his teachings. He had it brought from the Shadowfen and placed in the city's central plaza. It was no longer an object of fear, a weapon against darkness. It became a tool for self-reflection. Citizens would stand before it not to scry for evil, but to be guided in a meditation to commune with their own inner shadows, to ask what parts of themselves they had exiled out of fear, shame, or societal pressure, and to begin the courageous work of calling those lost pieces home. Kalen's own powers continued to evolve. He found he could not only command light, but also shape shadows. He could soothe a fevered mind with a cool, comforting darkness. He could weave illusions from twilight to help people face their fears in a safe environment. He learned that shadow was not the absence of light, but its counterpart, a force of introspection, of mystery, of potential. His power was no longer one-dimensional. It was holistic, dynamic, and infinitely more creative than the rigid, forceful light he had wielded before. He often thought of Lyra, the hermit in the fen. He now understood her profound compassion. She had seen the truth of wholeness long before he had. Her life, lived in the balance of the shadow fen, was a testament to the wisdom Ethelgard had rejected. She was not a guardian of a weapon, but a keeper of a truth, waiting patiently for a soul brave enough to listen. Her non-interference was the greatest teaching of all. She knew Kalen had to find his own way, that the integration could not be forced, only chosen. One day, a young girl born with a birthmark that was a deep, shadowy violet instead of the celebrated gold, was brought before him. In the old Ethelgard, she would have been pitied, perhaps even ostracized, seen as cursed or flawed. Her parents were terrified, ashamed. Kalen knelt before the child and looked at her not with pity, but with reverence. He touched her violet mark gently. "You are blessed," he said, his voice filled with warmth. "You are a child of the twilight. You are born whole. You will not have to search for your other half. Your journey will be to teach others the beauty of your balance." The transformation of Ethelgard was slow, fraught with the difficulty of unlearning generations of fear. But it was steady. The city's architecture began to change. They allowed alcoves of soft shadow, creating spaces for quiet contemplation. Their art, once uniformly bright, began to explore the complexities of chiaroscuro, the interplay of light and shade, gaining a depth and emotional resonance it never had before. They were becoming a culture not of purity, but of wholeness, not of denial, but of integration, trading a brittle perfection for a resilient, compassionate, and authentic existence. Kalen never saw himself as a king or a ruler. He was simply a guide, the first one to walk the path. His greatest joy was seeing others take their own journey of integration. He knew that every soul had its own unique shadow, its own personal umbra to reclaim. His role was not to fight their battles for them, but to hold the space for them to be brave, to assure them that what they feared most within themselves was not a monster to be slain, but a treasure to be unearthed, a source of unimaginable power, creativity, and depth. His own integrated shadow remained a part of him, a source of constant wisdom. It was the voice that urged caution when his light self became too impulsive. It was the part of him that understood the necessity of endings, allowing him to grieve and let go in a healthy way. It gave him his connection to the earth, to the cycles of life and death, to the profound mystery of the unknown. It did not make him evil, it made him wise. It did not make him weak, it made him unbreakable. It was and always had been his greatest, most misunderstood, and most sacred power. The story of Kalen is your story, chosen one. Ethelgard is the world, the society, the family that handed you a rulebook of acceptable emotions and told you to repress the rest. It is the culture that praises relentless positivity and shames authentic sorrow, that celebrates success and hides failure. Kalen, the son chosen, is the perfect mask you were taught to wear, the good person, the capable healer, the strong leader. And the Umbra, the shade beast, is your magnificent, powerful, and deeply wounded shadow. It is every part of yourself you were taught to amputate in the name of being good. Your shadow is composed of the impulses and feelings that your conscious mind, your ego, has rejected. It is your anger, your envy, your greed, your vulnerability, your fear, your wildness. You were taught that these things are bad, that they are a stain upon your soul. But Carl Jung, the great psychologist and mystic, taught us a deeper truth. The shadow is not evil. It is simply the part of us that has been unlived. And the more we repress it, the more we deny it, the darker, more destructive, and more monstrous it becomes. Just as the Umbra grew more powerful, the more light Kalen threw at it. Your anxiety, your self-sabotage, your sudden bursts of rage, these are often the desperate actions of a shadow that is starving for your attention. The revelation from the parable is this: your mission is not to destroy your shadow. That is the lie of Ethelgard. That is the path to failure and fragmentation. Your true, sacred mission is to do what Kalen did. You must turn unarmed and face the beast. You must walk into the chilling aura of your own rejected self, and you must have the supreme courage to listen to its pain, to understand its needs, and to finally call it home. Your shadow contains a staggering amount of power. It holds your raw life force, your deepest creativity, your connection to instinct, and your most profound wisdom. To keep it locked away is to live as Kalen did, a hollow, incomplete version of yourself, operating at a mere fraction of your true potential. When you integrate your shadow, you do not become evil. You become whole. You become dangerous in the best possible way, dangerous to illusion, dangerous to limitation, and dangerous to any system that seeks to keep you small and fragmented. You become a force of nature. Here is your alchemical step. This is not about a grand confrontation tomorrow. It begins with a single, quiet act of courage tonight. Find a moment of silence. Close your eye. Journey inward past the curated perfection of your conscious mind. Go down into the basement of your soul, where you have locked away the things you do not like about yourself. Stand before that locked door. You do not need to open it yet. Simply place your hand upon it and whisper to whatever is on the other side, "I know you are there. I am sorry for leaving you in the dark for so long. I am ready to start listening, that is all." This simple acknowledgement is the first touch of hands between Kalen and the Umbra. It is the beginning of the end of your inner war. You are not here to be a flawless statue in a city of sterile light. You are here to be a living, breathing cosmos of brilliant stars and deep, mysterious nebulae. Your mission requires all of you. Not just the polished, socially acceptable parts, but the raw, the wild, the wounded, the powerful, the dark, the divine. It requires your wholeness. Make a vow right now to yourself and to the universe. A vow to stop fighting. A vow to start listening. A vow to reclaim the exiled parts of your magnificent soul. The world does not need another perfect hero. It needs you in all of your complete, integrated, and terrifyingly beautiful power. The keys to this journey are delivered here. The ciphers that unlock your potential are transmitted through this channel. The work has just begun. To ensure you receive the next transmission, the next essential key for your awakening, subscribe to Soul Cipher and activate the notification. Your mission is waiting. Your wholeness is your destiny.